What's up, interpreters? I'm Charlotte Giraudo. I'm the Interpretation Program Manager for ABMC.
What's up, interpreters? I am Stott, your NAI Events Manager.
What is up, interpreters? I am NAI Executive Director Paul Caputo. Charlotte, hello, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Paul.
The ABMC is the American Battle Monuments Commission. Just as a sort of level-setting foundational question here, what is the ABMC? What do you all do?
So the ABMC is an American federal agency which was created right after World War I, and its mission is to honor the service of the U.S. Armed Forces by maintaining 57 commemorative sites around the world. So that includes cemeteries, but also memorials. And at these sites, we offer different kinds of services, which include commemorative ceremonies, guided tours, activity booklets, exhibits, etc. So most of these sites are located overseas, but we have 3 in the United States. Most are linked to World War I and World War II, but we also have sites linked to other kind of events or different conflicts. And we have 2 active cemeteries, which means that veterans and their family members can still be buried at these sites.
Charlotte, would you mind describing just like one of these 57 sites and the work that you all do there? Like what is a typical site and what happens there?
Yeah, sure. So a typical ABMC site is a combination of architectural and horticultural features. Each cemetery has its own style, making it like an artistic creation and a complete work of art. So it combines carefully, the grave area, art, and the landscape itself to convey meaning. And so you will have the burial area with white marble headstones with green grass in between, a chapel, a wall of the missing where we honor service members whose body was not found, an American flag, and a visitor building with a reception room. So that's the main elements of an ABMC cemetery. For World War II sites, these are a bit more elaborate. So you would have battle maps and also sculptures and different kind of work of art and a memorial. And for the landscape and the horticultural features, you'd find the lawns, decorative plants, alignment of trees, flower beds, annual plants, but also wooded areas. And typically, you would have an American superintendent managing the site and locally employed staff that would maintain the grass. So that includes the green team, of course, but you also have interpretive guides working there and administrative staff as well.
Geez, Charlotte, this is really complex. It's a really complex site. Not only you have this historical weight of the site, you have this emotional, connection, being a memorial, and then you have global visitors all the time. So what is the role of interpretation at ABMC?
The interpretation is very important to ABMC. Just to give you a number, we have over 120 interpretive staff. So that includes the position I listed, the guides, the superintendents, administrative staff as well. Except the green team, all ABMC employees have interpretation in their position description. And since the opening of our first visitor center, so that was in 2007, we have made it a priority, to develop our efforts in visitor services and interpretation. Since then, we have opened 10 visitor centers with exhibits, and we have hired over 50 guides. So interpretation is really a tool which helps us support and fulfill our mission because, interpretation makes people care. So it fosters remembrance and thus preserves the memories of the fallen. It also fosters appreciation for our mission and preservation of our commemorative sites because, as it leads to responsible visitor behavior, the concerned public becomes an advocate for the sites. So all our sites, they offer at least guided tours and talks. And then 10 of these sites have visitor centers with exhibits. And then you have additional services depending on staffing available and visitation as well.
Charlotte, where are you from?
So I'm French. I live in Normandy. and I started with ABMC in 2016 as a seasonal guide. I was working at the time at the Normandy American Cemetery, which is our most visited site.
We were talking before we started recording. I majored in French in college, and I don't get to use my French very often. So it's very nice to sit here and chat with you. I won't subject our listeners to any of my French, but I'm really interested in the model that you described of each independent site having an American superintendent, but then working with the local community as interpreters. Very curious how you got involved with that on a personal level, and then why is it important for ABMC to work with local guides or local interpreters to actually be the face of the organization for visitors?
I first started working for ABMC as a seasonal guide, as I just said. I was working as a guide at the time, and I thought that having these sites with American employees working in France was fascinating, and this is part of a shared history as well. We were allies during World War I and World War II, and that's what I thought was interesting, and also sharing a story which is not ours. I mean, we share the stories of American service members who sacrificed their lives during these conflicts, and being able to share this story, me not being an American, I thought that was quite powerful for other people and local people to care for these places. And our sites are always very strongly connected to the local community. You have strong relationships that just build over time with people, who at the time were connected to the families of the fallen. And this lasted over the years. So yeah, our sites are strongly integrated in the local community now. Main annual event, which is Memorial Day. So that draws a lot of local people.
I'm dating myself a little bit with this, but the first time I was in France was in 1991, and I was 16, so definitely dating myself here. And I was amazed in Normandy about how many American flags there were still, all those years after World War II. And it was uh, being an American in Normandy was a really interesting experience for me because you felt that sense of connection, and there was still the sacrifices that were made during World War II were clearly still remembered, and so it's such interesting work that you're doing.
But Charlotte, again, just there's so much interpretation happening around the world. Where are the battle monuments? Where are the American battle monuments? It's not just in Normandy, France.
So most sites are located in Europe. So France, Belgium, Italy, the UK, Luxembourg, the Netherlands. And then we also have sites in the Philippines, and in Mexico and Panama. And then we also have markers and memorials in additional countries. That includes New Zealand, for example, some islands in the Pacific like Guam. So that gives you an overview of all our sites.
Wow. How do you coordinate consistent messaging across all of those different sites that are literally spread out across the world?
Yeah, it has been a challenge. And in October 2024, we started implementing our first comprehensive interpretation plan, which took 2 years to develop. It contains 3 key elements, which define, our approach to interpretation, what should be communicated, and what services should be offered. So we have an interpretation policy defining goals and objectives for interpretation, interpretive principles, interpretive standards for all products, and a code of ethics for interpreters. So just to give you an idea, we defined interpretive goal as the following: to raise awareness of the enduring impact of war, service, and sacrifice on society, deepen reflection on the past, and inspire hope for the future. So that was the first element. Then we have significant statements, which define what makes our sites unique, what should be highlighted about our sites. And as you said, that includes not only their history associated with the site, but also what makes our site beautiful, the aesthetic of the sites. You also have the emotional aspects, emotional and spiritual, and the community, the importance for the community. The third element is the visitor experience strategy. So we have defined core services that should be made available at each site. That includes personal and non-personal services. So tours and talks, of course, but also educational tours and resources for teachers. We receive a lot of schools at our sites, self-guided tours, and an activity booklets for children, for families. So that would be the core services. And then for sites which have the staffing and the resources, they can go further and propose additional services. So that's how we find a way to convey a consistent message and define core services at each site so that it creates an ABMC experience for the visitor.
Song's question sort of alludes to the fact that you have these sites all over the world, and the question of how do you unify them under one message. The opposite of that is, while these sites are all over the world, you're interpreting the same kind of content at each of these sites. So I'm curious, with the work that you all do around the world, how specifically is interpretation different at memorials and cemetery than it might be at other interpretive sites?
Yeah, it is quite different. First, because these sites are sites of memory. So by that, I mean that they are significant to many people because they play a role in shaping the identity of a community, of a nation. And as Song said, we have an audience which is global, which is international. We receive about 20% of Americans, and the other visitors are local, mostly from the host nation, I mean. And these people, they bring with them diverse perspectives and narratives about this conflict, about the world wars, for example. So they associate different values with these sites. And in addition, although the events are more and more distant, they are still quite recent, especially for World War II. So ABMC sites still receive veterans from the World War, from World War II, and many relatives as well, which means that interpretation should be very sensitive to not, offend visitors or to not disrespect the memory of individuals. So that requires appropriate programs, appropriate delivery styles, appropriate services as well. In our interpretive policy, we define values that we follow, which make our interpretive foundation, let's say. And one of these is that interpretation should be respectful and appropriate. So in terms of service, for example, so far we are not doing live interpretation. We don't want our guys to wear military uniforms. For us, that would not be appropriate. We also don't do any, I don't know, let's say, theater plays in our cemeteries. We don't want the services we provide to impact the experience of other visitors at the site as well. And that doesn't mean that there's not a place for such things as humor and jokes, but it should be done in an appropriate way. For example, we have a lot of funny anecdotes about the service members we honor, whether these are related to their civilian or military life, for example. But it means that, yeah, it needs to be very sensitive, done very sensitively. And there's also a strong focus on the individual and on the military, of course, on death and sacrifice. But our main goal is to inspire hope. So for the cemetery specifically, what one of the questions we get the most is that are there real people buried here? Are people actually buried here? And the answer is yes. And that's why we are sharing the stories of the individuals that are honored at our sites. So that plays a central role in interpretation.
I think interpreting, legacy of war, people who have passed away, being literally in cemeteries must be hard some days to be an interpreter at your sites.
Yes, it's true. It's not always it's not a happy topic talking about death, about war. But I think that all the people working for ABMC think that what we do is quite noble, and that as our sites are, tangible reminders of the human cost of war, they are important and they have a very symbolic value. So we try to use these sites, you know, for people to realize, yeah, what it takes but what it means to have war, and I think that's the way we approach interpretation, and not necessarily always focus on what is sad. Of course, visits can be very emotional, but we try to find a deeper meaning to what our sites represent.
One thing that I know just from years of working with ABMC, that the relationship that ABMC and NAI have has been really great over the years, and I know that that the administrators at ABMC really prioritize professional development. You all have been very active participants in our our certification and our training programs, and I have to say, as someone who has seen the applications that have come in for our certification program, that ABMC always does an amazing job. The submissions that come from ABMC interpreters are always terrific. So, what is it about the ABMC that makes them prioritize professional development in a way that maybe some organizations don't?
First, thank you for the nice feedback, and we will convey that to our interpreters. And so from the start, from the first year, we started hiring guides. So we implemented the CIG as a requirement, as a required certification. So the Certified Interpretive Guide certification from NAI. So all our guides go through that certification since the beginning. And then I think we have the chance to have someone who is dedicated to training and coaching, our interpretive specialist, Gert. He's the one who developed during the last 2 years our continuing education program, what we call the CEP, which consists in different internal and external trainings and development opportunities. So in terms of external opportunities, we've been working, of course, with NAI. We offer the CIG, but also the CHI, Certified Heritage Interpreter Certification, and the CIM for managers. We are also working with Interpret Europe to provide the CIW, Certified Interpretive Writer course. That's to support our interpreters with the development of non-personal products. We've also been working with Dr. Jackie Gilson to teach, dialogic interpretation for interpreters who would be interested. We are also offering the Coaching Interpreters Workshop. That's for interpreters who would like to become mentors, or for supervisors who want to get better at coaching. And also of course, our interpreters are able to attend the NAI annual conference online. So that's an overview of the external training. And then we have internal opportunities. We have an onboarding process. So we welcome all our new employees, and we give them an introduction to interpretation. They're supposed to develop a first program, fill the program outline, record it, and then share it and self-critique it. Our interpreter specialist goes on site also to coach people and provide feedback. And then we have talks as well on a monthly, sometimes weekly basis, where interpreters can share service member stories. They can also do program observation and program evaluation. So they would pair up and then criticize each other's program and share that with all others interpreters. And the last one I would say is that, so our interpreters, once they have completed all the certification and the different steps in that CEP, in that continuing education program, they can become mentors and travel to other sites to coach their colleagues. So we tried to offer something which was comprehensive and which included not only training, but also different kind of development opportunities, knowledge sharing. So yeah, I think we are very lucky to be able to offer this kind of development to our interpreters, and it's been quite successful so far.
Charlotte, what new and interesting programming is happening at ABMC?
So I would mention a couple of things. The first one is that almost all our sites have implemented the Junior Guide program. It's an activity booklet for families. And the goal is once they have completed, the booklet and find the answers, they become junior guides, meaning that they have a mission now, which is to share the stories of the service members they have discovered. So that's the first one. And the second one is an event. That's the Printemps des Cimetières, the Cemetery Spring, which was initially a French event focusing on funeral heritage and the discovery of cemeteries. It's now spreading to other European countries, and the objective is to highlight, lesser known heritage treasures of cemeteries. So the theme changes every year. Last year it was focusing on women. This year the theme is fauna, flora, and biodiversity in cemeteries. So during 3 days, you have interpreters which are invited to offer a wide range of activities. And I'll give you just a couple examples for ABMC. We have a specific tour offered at the Rhône American Cemetery in the south of France, which theme will be the fauna and flora at the Rhône American Cemetery, are silent living witnesses of 80 years of commemoration and remembrance of the fallen. And the second event at the Meuse-Argonne American Cemetery in the north of France will be a bird spotting event. So you know that cemeteries, they host a wide variety of birds. And these are important sites for the preservation of biodiversity. So members of the Green Team will be leading a bird spotting event to observe and highlight the bird nesting in the cemetery. And they will also highlight the preservation efforts to protect their habitats.
All right, Charlotte, I have one last question for you, and it's because I'm sort of a list keeper myself. I love keeping, lists of numbers of states I've been to, stadiums I've visited for sporting events, all that sort of thing. I know this is a paltry list out of the 57 sites with ABMC. I've only been to 3 of them. I've been to Normandy, obviously. I've been to the Aisne-Marne American Cemetery in France and Belleau-Wood also in France. I'm curious to know, have you ever had a visitor come to you and say, I've been to all 57 ABMC sites, or I'm trying to collect all 57? Is there anyone out there trying to get all of them?
We have people from the military, especially, who really target these sites when they travel, but it's quite rare. But we have an idea to develop an ABMC passport to invite visitors to visit all our sites, and with a focus on the cemeteries. And the idea is that people would be able to collect stickers and collect these in the passport. So it's still in development, but that's one of the projects we have upcoming right now.
Fantastic. Charlotte, thank you so much. This has really been enlightening and enjoyable. Thank you so much for taking the time to share the work that you're doing and that ABMC is doing. Where can people find ABMC online if they want to learn more?
Yes, so thank you for inviting me. And the website is www.abmc.gov. So we'll find information on the sites, on the mission, and also last updates and events.
That is very easy, abmc.gov. And interpreters, that's what's up.